Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1695B and today's date is October 21st, 2018 and the title of the episode is World Peace, Deep State Losing Control of Narrative. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about privacy and how the NSA, CIA, social media corporations are tracking and spying on us 24/7. First, let's take a look at what happened in the last couple of weeks. First, hackers stole 50 million Facebook user access tokens. Now, according to Facebook, hackers were able to access users' private information without requiring their original account password or validating two-factor authentication code. If we look at Google Plus is shutting down after a vulnerability exposed 500,000 users' data. Hackers had the ability to access data from more than 500,000 users, including their username, email addresses, occupation, date of birth, profile photos, and gender-related information. Social media, corporations, government, they are tracking us. They're tracking our behavior, building profiles. The information includes location, purchases, banking, and much more. So what does this mean? It means they are watching us, listening and tracking us, connecting to our microphone and camera. It is up to each and every one of us to protect ourselves. How do we do this? You use a virtual private network. I use Virtual Shield. It allows you to transport yourself somewhere else in the world and the trackers will not know your true location. Virtual Shield VPN is one of the easiest VPNs to use in the world, one of the fastest VPNs in the world. Their no-log policy protects its users from any data breaches. That means they don't keep any logs. This month, Virtual Shield is offering 25% off VPN plans and all premium add-ons including Protection Plus, residential access, monthly maintenance, phone support, VIP performance plans for as low as $3 per month. And don't forget about IdentiSafe, which allows the customer the ability to block off computer microphone and camera access from any unwanted spies and hackers. For anyone that is paranoid about the big tech companies, government, the deep state watching and listening to every move we make and accessing our computers, well then IdentiSafe is for you. So check out the link below and start protecting you and your family because we all have the right to remain private. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are losing control of the narrative, and every day we see more and more information come out which contradicts everything that they've been saying, and they're really losing the entire narrative of their story. Now, lawmakers, they heard a testimony for the second time from former FBI General Counsel James Baker in a closed-door session. The interview focused mainly on allegations that Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was serious about secretly recording Trump and that he consulted with several other administration officials about invoking the 25th Amendment. Now, Baker's testimony several weeks ago before the House Judiciary and Oversight and Government Reform Committees, both of which, by the way, are leading a joint investigation into the Bureau and Department of Justice, was described by lawmakers as explosive. Now, on Thursday, the testimony was considered just as explosive as the former lawyer went into detail about why he believed that Rosenstein was not joking around when he told former FBI Director Andrew McCabe and former FBI lawyer Lisa Page that he wanted to secretly record Trump. The pair also informed Baker that Rosenstein had discussed the possibility of invoking the 25th Amendment under the guise that Trump was unfit to serve as president. Now, again, invoking the 25th can only be accomplished with the signature of the vice president, and there is no way the vice president would ever agree to any such thing. I mean, we could see that this most likely would never happen. I mean, they were going to push this, but I don't think this was going to happen. Baker told lawmakers that he knew Rosenstein was serious based on McCabe's words and actions after their meeting with Rosenstein. House Judiciary Committee Representative Bob Goodlatte and House Oversight and Government Reform Committee Chairman Representative Trey Gowdy said that Rosenstein had agreed to talk to lawmakers next Wednesday. So we can see that the story from the deep state and everything they've been pushing out is really starting to fall apart. And then we have the Department of Justice, which just admitted from a court filing that the FBI's used more than one confidential human source, also known as informants or spies, to infiltrate the Trump campaign through former advisor Carter Page. And the FBI has protected information that would identify these identities of other confidential sources who provided information or intelligence to the FBI, as well as information provided by those sources. And from these court papers, from the court filings, you start to realize that this was a full-blown operation into this Trump administration. Now, add on top of this, a Washington federal judge ordered special counsel Robert Mueller's team to clarify election meddling claims lodged against a Russian company. Now remember, going back a couple of months, Mueller said, these companies were involved in meddling in the 2016 election. He never expected Concord Management and Consulting to come to the United States and defend their company against the charges that they meddled in the election. So one of the three businesses indicted by Mueller, this was back in February, along with 13 individuals for election meddling, surprised the special counsel in April when they actually showed up. Now the judge, this is Judge Dabney Friedrich, she is out there saying, listen, Mueller's team needs to prove that they were meddling in the 2016 election. Actually, she's giving his team an order to do this because Mueller's team tried to delay Concord from entering the case, arguing that the three Russian companies not been properly served. However, the judge denied the request, effectively telling the prosecutors, they're here. Let's move forward and prove that they were meddling. This is Mueller's worst nightmare. He never expected this to happen. So Mueller has been investigating Russian collusion, and he has turned up absolutely nothing in the last 2 years. And the word is that he's getting to wrap all this up, which means he's never found anything, because if he found something, it would have been all over the mainstream media. I mean, it would have been news like you wouldn't have even believed that you've ever seen before. But we haven't seen any of this. This means this was a complete dead end, and the deep state, they're losing their narrative. It's falling apart. Of course, they're still trying to do other things. I mean, we see the caravan of all the illegal immigrants moving up towards the United States. And remember, within this group of individuals, which they paid off, by the way, there are criminals, there are gang members. There are actually individuals from Syria, like the Islamic State, the paid mercenaries. They're using fake identification, but they're all mixed into these groups because they don't care who they paid off to send up here. As long as there was a lot of these individuals, they didn't care who they were. They just wanted them to storm the borders. I mean, Trump was out there saying that hardened criminals are storming the Mexico border. These aren't little angels. And he's absolutely right. And if these people do want to come into the United States, there is a process. When they reach the border, let them go to the checkpoints. They can be vetted, and they'll be let in if everything checks out. If not, they're going to have to wait in Mexico. They're going to have to wait before they can come in. They just can't hop the border and have buses waiting for them to take them to the sanctuary cities, because that's what used to happen. So everyone says, well, they should have the right to dream like dreamers. And yes, everyone has the right. You just have to follow the process. I mean, think about it. Why do you have a door on your house? Do you leave your door open? Do you just let anyone come in and sit with you and live with you? No. You stop them at the door. You vet them. Who are you? Why are you at my door? You ask them questions. And if they broke into your house, where they broke down your door, or like they jumped over the border, that's illegal entry. Illegal entry into the country, illegal entry into your house. It's illegal. And if these people really want the dream of the United States, they need to go through the process and go to the checkpoints. It's that simple. Let's move on to what is happening with the whole Khashogi covert operation by the deep state. Right now, we see that Saudi Arabia, they confirmed that Jamal Khashoggi was killed in the consulate in Turkey on October 2nd. Right now, King Salman, he fired 5 top officials right now. The White House has issued a statement We will continue to closely follow the international investigation into this tragic incident and advocate for justice that is timely, transparent, and in accordance with all due process. We are saddened to hear confirmation of Mr. Khashogi's death, and we offer our deepest condolences to his family, fiancé, and friends. So, Saudi Arabia is saying that an argument erupted between Khashoggi and others whom he met in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, leading to a fistfight which led to his death. Now, we know this story is made up. We know this, most likely, this is not how it happened. We know this was an operation. Who created and who was controlling this operation? That is the big question. And what was the purpose of the operation? And why was the mainstream media pushing the narrative so hard? So let's continue with what Saudi Arabia is doing right now. They removed a key royal advisor and senior intelligence officials. King Salman issued an order to remove Saud al-Qahtani, an advisor to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The monarch also relieved Deputy Intelligence Chief General Ahmed al-Asiri. So these individuals and many others have been removed from their post. Now remember, the deep state, they work with other deep state operatives in all of these countries. And most likely, the intelligence community within Saudi Arabia, remember, Saudi Arabia works with the deep state. They were put into power by the central bank, the deep state, back in the 70s. They became very wealthy because of a deep state and the central bank. So right now, we see that a lot of things are changing and they're removing a lot of these individuals. Now, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has been appointed to head a committee tasked with restructuring the general intelligence agencies. So the intelligence agency is being overhauled purely out of public interest right now. This is coming from King Salman's order. So they're getting rid of the intelligence community within the kingdom. I'm wondering if they're getting rid of the deep state operatives, and this allowed them to do this. So Trump came out and he applauded Saudi Arabia for the Khashoggi investigation, saying this is a first good step. Now, does he believe this is exactly what happened? No. But I think what he's doing right now is he's pushing an operation behind the scenes to get rid of the deep state within the country. Remember, the deep state, they wanted something completely different. They wanted sanctions. They wanted everyone to go against Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia's, they have done very, very bad things. And remember, they have been taking orders from the deep state. They've been pushing the war in Yemen. They've been bombing women and children in Yemen. They violated human rights on their citizens and many other people around the world. They've also created paid mercenary armies for the deep state. There's a huge amount of human trafficking going on within Saudi Arabia, pedophilia. This is why it's called Wonderland. And we see that countries, corporations, central banks, they're all pulling away from Saudi Arabia. And I believe this is what the deep state actually wanted to happen. They want everyone to pull away, and they want Saudi Arabia to be isolated. And we see that there are many countries right now, and Schiff, here in the United States, he piped in and said, the Saudi report of Khashoggi is not credible. But we have UK, France, Germany. They're all out there saying that the explanation for the death of Khashoggi is not transparent. It's inadequate. We don't believe it. And we need more information. Actually, Germany right now, they're suspending their arms sales to Saudi, and that is a $500 million deal. Now, what is happening here? We have the Saudi king who gave this explanation of a fistfight and telling the world this is how Khashoggi died. This allowed Trump a little bit of room to avoid acting on Saudi Arabia. What do I mean by this? Well, the explanation that came out of Saudi Arabia doesn't admit that the Saudi royal family had knowledge of what went on. What they're saying is that Khashoggi walked into the consulate, a fistfight broke out, and it led into this whole murder scene. And the royal family had no knowledge of this whatsoever. And remember, Trump came out and said if Saudi Arabia was responsible, there'd be consequences. But this allowed Trump a little bit of room not to do anything with Saudi Arabia. This was planned. If you really look at what the Trump administration has been doing throughout all of this, in public, they have been doing pretty much nothing. Except when they tweeted out that the mainstream media report that Pompeo was reviewing and listened to the recordings or read the transcript of the murder, they came out and said this was completely fake, phony, and false. So right now, Trump had set out an expectation that he only punished the Saudis seriously if senior royal family members were found responsible. So right now, Trump is out there and he's saying that, listen, we haven't been shown any evidence by intelligence officials that would make him believe MBS had any direct role. Nobody has told me he's responsible. Nobody has told me he's not responsible. We haven't reached that point. I haven't heard either way. And he went on to say there is a possibility he found out about it afterward. It could be something in the building went badly awry. It could be that's when he found out about it. And this is coming from Trump. Now the question is it possible that the deep state had the ability to create this operation without the king and the prince involvement? This would mean a whole top leadership of foreign intelligence carried out a covert mission without the knowledge of the prince and king. Could this happen? Well, if it did happen here in the U.S., the top intelligence, Department of Justice, FBI, carried out a mission against Trump, the candidate, and then a sitting president without Trump really knowing that this was happening until he investigated and started to look into what was going on. But they were doing it without the knowledge of Trump. They were on their own. So the question is, did the deep state do this to try to push their agenda? Well, we will find out if this is true or not, because Turkey, and if they hold to this, they're saying that they're going to reveal the truth surrounding the death of Saudi journalist Khashoggi on Tuesday. Erdogan came out and said this during a press conference. And the announcement comes just 2 days after Erdogan spoke with Saudi King Salman, where they both agreed to continue cooperation with the investigation into the journalist's death. So we'll have to see how this all plays out, but we can see right now the Trump administration, they're sitting back and just watching it all and not reacting like the deep state wants them to react. Now, we can see that peace is moving forward in the Middle East, and this is something the deep state does not want whatsoever. Right now, we have Merkel, Macron. They have both agreed to join Russia and Turkey at the next meeting in Sochi to craft a political solution to the Syrian civil war. What this means is they're starting to realize that it's over already. It's time to get the coalition forces out of there. And when we really look at this, this is a major event because it furthers the split of foreign policy between the EU leadership and the deep state and moves Macron and Merkel closer to Putin in the way he is doing business in the Middle East. So Russia's previous efforts to sit down and work out a path to peace in Syria with regional players were originally dismissed as insignificant or outright fraudulent by the deep state. Now, they're saying, yes, we need to meet with Russia and Turkey. Yes, we need to withdraw the troops from Syria. Yes, we need to have peace in this area. And I think what's happening right now, and when we look at all the evidence and all the indicators, that the deep state control over the world is falling apart. Their narrative is falling apart, and they are scrambling to keep their control. But at every turn, it's getting harder and harder and harder. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.